Welcome to the Deficient Vegans podcast. This is episode 38, and I'm the Muscle Deficient Vegan here with the Protein Deficient Vegan. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi, everybody. So last week, we talked a little bit about the food angle on starting a new fitness plan. We're going to follow that up this week and talk about how to pick or build your first lifting plan.
Or maybe improve it.
Yeah, definitely. There are definitely some tips in here, even if you've been picking and choosing programs for a while or trying to build your own or whatever. So hopefully you get some value out of this. But first up, new news.
New news.
So the first piece of news is that in 2023, there was a Texas law that said that plant-based meat needed some kind of disclaimer on the package that said made from plants or meat from plants, something along those lines. Recently, a federal judge has ruled that law unconstitutional in violation of the First Amendment. They basically said that the labels aren't misleading. They used the example of Tofurkey and said it's obvious that it's supposed to be made from tofu.
Yeah, you can even go look at the ingredients on the back and figure out it's not made from animals.
Right. So because of that, because it's not a directly misleading claim, it's, protected by the First Amendment.
Woohoo, freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Also, I find this so stupid because, if anyone's being misleading, it's Morningstar by calling stuff plant-based when it has eggs and cheese and dairy in it.
Yeah.
I know. I'm always on a Morningstar kick. Fuck you, Morningstar.
Until they stop doing it.
I feel like it's more misleading than plant-based chicken or chicken with an apostrophe.
Yeah.
Would you put an apostrophe in real chicken? Probably not.
Right. Yeah. Next up is a Italian tech food startup called Foreverland has created a new cocoa-free chocolate.
Do you think it's interesting that an Italian startup has a company using English words?
I do think that's interesting.
Anyway, sorry.
There are some issues, I guess, with the cocoa supply chain. It's getting hard to get. The prices are going way up.
Ethical issues with it.
Some ethical issues. We saw some of that with Chomp chocolate previously.
Yep.
That was actually some of the issues he was having. But this new chocolate that Foreverland has made is derived from carob, which is kind of a bush in the legume family.
Yeah, I know they use carob. Okay, they're dog treats, right? That are supposed to have that chocolatey taste, but chocolate's poison to dogs, so it'll be peanut butter and carob.
I don't know if it's a good idea to give dogs a taste for chocolate with the caruba chocolate, but it's nice that they can have that flavor.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay, here's a really sad thing that I heard that this vet does. But okay, this is really sad, but happy. I don't know. So basically, there's this vet that I read about, and if they're going to put your dog down, you have to have your dog put down. They'll give them a Hershey Kiss as their last meal right beforehand, so they can get to taste chocolate for once.
Wow, that's bittersweet. They're calling their chocolate Charuba chocolate.
That's kind of cute though.
Yeah.
Charuba. I don't know. The more I say it, the more I like it. Charuba.
Yeah. I'm sure they would love for people to keep saying it. But yeah, no. So if anybody is in Italy and happens to come across this chocolate one day, send us a message and maybe we'll arrange some kind of trade or something you can get in America. Assuming we're not violating any, I don't know what the rules are.
It's called bartering. It's a barter system.
Yeah.
We'll send you edamame puffs.
Yeah, I think those are pretty hard to get.
For Charuba.
All right. And then the last piece is, so the Super Bowl has already happened by the time you hear this episode, but there was an article talking about vegan options at Levi Stadium where the Super Bowl was being played. The one they highlighted was an Impossible rooftop cheesesteak. It said it was made with bulgogi glazed plant-based meat, caramelized onions, and kale that was grown at the stadium's on-site farm.
That is kind of cool. I didn't know they had an on-site farm.
Yeah. Me neither.
But I also don't know anything about Levi Stadium, so
yeah, me neither.
Not surprising that I wouldn't know that.
No, but yeah, that's really cool. So if any of you guys happen to go to the Super Bowl and you tried this cheesesteak, let us know how it was.
I like that it sounds like a pretty well thought out option. I don't know, I haven't had it, but it sounds kind of good.
Yeah.
Although, what is bulgogi glaze? Do you know what that is?
I have literally no idea. I thought bulgogi was a meat.
Maybe it is. I don't know. I stopped eating meat at such a young age. I feel like I really don't know a lot of terms around it. Yeah. What the hell is that? Let us know what that is. Yeah. We can also Google it.
All right. So let's get into the main segment here.
The tofu of it all?
Yeah, the tofu of it all.
This is going to catch on, I swear. Oh, we also came up with a new phrase. Instead of saying to skin a cat, which is gross, it's there are a lot of ways to peel a potato.
Yeah, I actually like that. And then you listed off several ways to peel a potato that I don't think I ever would have thought of. I don't remember them all, but they were very creative.
I'm a creative girl.
All right. So first thing to know is that back on episode 16, we had a kind of an intro to resistance training. We covered some terminology, some concepts. So if you hear anything in this one, maybe you're just a little unfamiliar with the terminology, maybe go back and listen to that one to get caught up, or maybe just go listen to that one first. Although I don't think I'm going to be using a lot of stuff from that requires that one.
This is more basic, I would say.
Yeah. So I would say maybe just, if you're really into the resistance training thing, maybe just listen to both of those.
Yeah. If you're like, how do I extra apply this information?
Right. Yeah, especially if you're like, because we're going to kind of jump right into programming here. So maybe if you don't know what reps are, what sets are, that's the kind of stuff I talked about in the last episode.
Yeah.
So the first thing you have to do when you're trying to build a lifting program or pick a lifting program is decide what your focus area is. Different people have different goals. Even when it comes to the specific aspect of lifting, you think like, oh, I want to lift. I want to get muscles, right? Which it could be your goal. But 4 big areas that I kind of bucket goals into are like strength.
Yeah.
The muscle growth, which is called hypertrophy, like you want your muscle to get physically bigger.
You want glamour muscles.
Right. Then there's also like sport-specific training. So if you're an athlete or you want to train to get better at some specific sport, your training might be more tailored towards that. And then there's just kind of a balanced approach. Like you just want to be fit, you want to get a little stronger, you want to get your muscles a little bigger, you want to be a little more athletic.
Look good, feel good.
Right, exactly. And you might also hear that kind of referred to as like functional fitness. That's kind of a popular buzzword. Yeah. But no matter what your focus is, you will improve in all the areas a little bit. It's just you can tailor your training to like really be focused on powerlifting if you have competitions coming up or something like that. And then you might not be as focused on things that technically would make your muscle a little bigger. So
look bigger.
Look bigger, yeah. There's a lot of crossover. Doing pretty much any program will improve all of these to some degree, but you can definitely focus on specific areas. So for strength specifically, this is basically like, okay, we're going into a powerlifting competition, or I just want to like impress my friends with this number. Like the idea of a strength goal is I want the number to be as big as possible. So I want my bench press to be the biggest number possible. So that is like a strength goal. Typically for strength exercises, you're going to use what are called barbell compound exercises. Compound just means it uses multiple joints. So if you think of something like a curl, you're just bending your elbow. That's a single joint exercise. But if you're doing like a squat, then you're bending your knees, you're bending your hips, your back angle is changing, you got your arms up. Like, I mean, it's a full body exercise basically for a squat.
That's why I hate it so much.
Because it's multi-joint. So most of the things involving strength, like you want to use as much of your body as possible to move the weight. So we're doing big barbell compound exercises. And you use a barbell because it's usually going to be a couple 100 pounds, and that's pretty hard to hold with dumbbells.
Yeah.
And it's also really easy to load a barbell. You can get fractional weights, and you can even add up to like 1/4 of a pound at a time with fractional weight plates. So the way that you would progress on a strength training program, the primary goal you would use for progression on the compound exercises is to increase the weight basically every session if you can. And that will only work for a little while. You'll have to do some more advanced techniques. But in general, your goal should be, okay, I squatted 150 pounds on Monday. If I have squats again on Friday and I got all my sets and reps on Monday, I'm going to go for 155 pounds next time. And you can increase it like every time basically until you get to a point where you can't do that anymore. And that could take months or maybe a year if you're a beginner. And then typically also for strength, you're doing lower reps. So you'll probably be in the 1 to 5 reps per set range, and your weight will be much higher than it would be if you were using higher reps.
Yeah.
So typically, if you're doing more than 5 reps in a set, you're not as focused on strength anymore, especially if we're talking about like you want a powerlifting competition or something. Like that competition lift is going to be a one-time lift. And we call that the 1 rep max. Like how much can you lift one time?
And don't they have calculators that you can put in like how, like if you have a normal weight that you're lifting 10 times, you can put it in a calculator and it'll kind of give you an estimate of your 1 rep max?
Yeah, you don't often have to actually do the 1 rep to test it out. You can just use calculators. So if you know like, okay, I can do 5 reps or I can do 10 reps and this is like absolutely all I can do, you can just plug it in, or actually a lot of the fitness apps, the tracking apps will just do that automatically for you, and it'll show you like this is your estimated 1 rep max. And then a lot of programming can use that. So you might do, okay, I'm doing squats this week at 80% of my 1 rep max or something like that. So you can kind of use that number to automatically adjust your intensity. And most strength exercises are also going to be bilateral. So that means you're using both limbs at the same time. So if you're doing squats, you're using both legs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because you can do like a split squat, but that's not typically going to be used for strength because you just generate more strength if you're using both legs.
Now, are these exercises normally the ones that you would see at competition then?
Yeah, typically. So the powerlifting competition typically centers around squat, bench press, and deadlift. So the big three is what they're called. So even if people aren't going into competition and they just want to impress themselves or impress other people and say how strong they are, they will typically still focus on the big three lifts because those are the ones that are most easily recognizable as like, oh, wow, you can bench a lot of weight. You can deadlift a lot of weight. So yeah, that's typically what it revolves around. So now moving on from strength, if your goal is muscle growth, the program is going to be maybe slightly different. Your primary goal is really going to be based on effort and how often your sets get you close to failure, like you can't physically do the lift anymore. Actually, when you're strength training, you won't really be near failure very often. But if you're training for muscle growth, you'll be basically very close to failure with almost every set.
I never thought about that for strength. You never get close to failure?
I mean, if you're testing, you do. But typically with a good program, you're not really training very close to failure. You're training in like 80 to 90% of what your 1 rep max. And then that kind of translates. If you're doing 5s, you would do like 80% of what you could do with 5s, and you just kind of slowly go up from there. Yeah. So basically, your rep ranges for muscle growth would be anywhere from like 5 reps to 30 reps has been shown to be equally effective. And again, like when I say that, that means you're doing 5 reps or you're doing 30 reps, and you're always 2 to 3 reps away from failure.
Yeah.
So you would, if you're doing more reps, you decrease the weight, obviously. If you can do 5 reps with 100 pounds, you can't do 30 reps with 100 pounds. So you'd have to decrease it. Most people find the sweet spot for the reps around like 8 to 12.
Yeah, because 30 reps would take forever.
Yeah. And it's also, as you do more, it's really hard to gauge like how close you are to failure.
Yeah. How do you know, well, like how would you tell someone to find out how close to failure they are?
I would say when you're first starting out, just go to failure for a few times. That way you understand how it feels. And then you'll start to just get an intuitive sense for, okay, I've really only got 2 more of these in the tank. Beginners are not that great at judging it, which is why like the advice is often just go to failure at the beginning, because then you know for sure.
Unless it's over your face.
Yeah, don't try to go to failure with things that go over your head or over your face for sure.
Or fall in any sort of precarious way. They're called skull crushers for a reason.
Yeah.
Or like if you're going to failure, or if you have like children or small pets or something around, like in your workout space, you might want to not go to failure. You might want to make sure they're not in the room.
Yeah. I would just use failure as a every once in a while type thing to recalibrate like how close you really think you are.
When you can fail in a safe way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're pretty sure like I'm not going to get the next one, and you just don't go for it.
Yeah. I can usually tell if I'm not going to be able to get the next one.
But apparently in a lab setting, when people have thought that they definitely wouldn't be able to get the next one, they can usually get like 5 or 6 more. So you never really know.
Believe in yourself.
Yeah. So also one of the things with muscle growth specifically is, so if we talk about volume being how many sets of this muscle that I do in a week, the volume in a week of exercises is like one of the main drivers of muscle growth. And that's not the same for strength. Strength is basically doing really hard weight and increasing the weight over time. But for muscle growth, the focus is more on doing a lot of sets a lot closer to failure. And they haven't really found an upper limit for this yet. I think there was a study a couple of years ago that was even showing like 40 sets of biceps in a week was still causing a little bit of additional gain.
That's crazy.
I mean, it's definitely like a diminishing returns thing, right? Going from 30 sets to 40 sets doesn't get you nearly as much benefit as going from like 5 sets to 10 sets.
Yeah, what's that sweet spot of like, I'm doing the most I can do while still getting good benefits?
Yeah, I think it's like most people realistically would top out around 20 sets a week per muscle group. But I try to make sure that I'm doing and like my programs are doing like 10 to 12 usually, unless you're really trying to.
Is that like minimum?
Well, minimum would be like 6.
Okay.
But 10 to 12 is like, okay, I'm really going to get some good progress here. But you don't want to do less than 6 probably.
Okay.
Unless you're just trying to maintain muscle. If you're just trying to if your legs are already huge for some reason and you just really want to focus on your upper body more, you can drop your legs down to like 4 to 6 sets a week just to maintain their current size. They won't really get much bigger. And then you can let everything else kind of catch up. And that saves you a little time too.
Or if you've been skipping leg day, do the opposite.
Yeah, do the opposite. And also something interesting for volume is that the fractional sets count for volume. And so what a fractional set is basically like when you're doing bench press. Like you're obviously focusing on your chest for bench press, but your triceps and your front delts, your front shoulders are also very involved. So the way that this is kind of calculated now, when they do like the science on this, is basically you count a set of bench press as one set for your chest, and then a half a set for your triceps, and a half a set for your shoulders. And so you do those calculations to figure out total weekly volume.
It's like freebies.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why actually a lot of beginner programs really focus on just barbell compounds, and they don't have like curls or tricep pushdowns or calf raises or any of that stuff, because they're already getting quite a bit of volume from pushing and pulling exercises.
That's interesting. So you'd have to do less exercises to get the full benefits of everything.
Right. And then also for muscle growth, one last thing is that you would use isolation exercises, also called like a single joint exercise, which is like
a curl,
like a bicep curl or like a leg extension or something like that, to add extra volume to focus muscle groups. Because if you do want to add that extra volume to your biceps, like you have maybe your biceps don't grow very well, like genetics, or you just really want to focus on biceps, you're not going to want to add in like a bunch of extra rows just to hit your biceps.
Right.
So you would just do an isolation exercise. So you would just maybe add in like a bunch of sets of curls every week or something like that. Also, your biceps recover a lot faster than your back, so they can take a lot more work. And then if you're focused on maybe a sport, this is going to all be very specific to the sport you're actually playing. But in general, sport programs are more focused on what we call power. So we have like strength, hypertrophy, and power as three separate concepts.
What's the difference between strength and power?
Power involves speed. So it's moving kind of a moderate weight very quickly.
How do you time that sort of thing?
How do you time it?
Like, how do you know you're getting faster with something like that?
So there are actually bar speed trackers.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you just attach it to the bar. It's got a little sensor and you can track it.
That's cool.
But the way you would typically do it is like you just kind of know what the right speed should be, and then you increase the weight over time.
Interesting.
Typically, they're using a percentage of your 1 rep max, and it's using really low reps, kind of like strength. So you're doing 1 to 5 reps, mainly because the lifts are pretty technical and you don't want to just do a whole bunch of them. And then also the movements will be kind of explosive movements that you might see in sport. So there are jumps, throws, a lot of the Olympic variants like power cleans, hang cleans, snatch clean, things like that.
A jerk off? Isn't there something called a clean jerk off?
It's not called a clean jerk off. It's actually called a clean and jerk.
My bad.
Yeah. But hey, maybe you can make your own variant. We'll add that to the Olympic weightlifting progressions. The clean jerk off.
Very explosive.
You have a point there. What sport would you say that trains us for?
Huh. It's a hard one.
Right, let's get back on topic. So then, you would do those exercises, and then you would also have sport-specific drills, which means like if you're doing basketball, you might have some, like you go out and practice basketball, basically, or you do like some agility drills or something like that. Something that's like really specific to the sport you're playing.
With weights?
No, not with weights. You just do the drill.
So what does that have to do with the resistance training?
What would you do in softball?
In softball, they made us follow around the football players and do the exact workout the football players were doing. And then we did sprints at the end, which felt like it had nothing to do with softball. So sometimes I'd get out of it and I'd get to go pitch against a wall.
Yeah.
Because I was a pitcher.
Yeah. Well, you just asked, what does it have to do with resistance training? Basically, you do have to factor it into the program because it's going to wear you out. You have to manage your fatigue.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. But you would just really focus on like the movements I'm doing have some application to my sport. So actually, there's a part of the NFL Combine when a new player goes to like basically try out for the NFL. They have a whole list of exercises. I do like a 40-yard dash, and then another popular one is basically you bench press 225 pounds. Everybody does the same weight, and you say how many times you can do it. And the idea there is supposed to be like, you're pushing a guy off of you on the line or whatever.
Oh.
But they're actually thinking about dropping the bench press from the combine because it's not sport specific enough. They don't feel like it translates well enough to football.
I could see that.
Yeah, because you're doing a lot of reps. It's like a really heavy weight. It's not a power movement, really. There's not the explosive component to it.
How often are you actually pushing the guy off you? Yeah. Like you're already down, right?
Especially in that way where you're like slowly pushing them, because that's why the sport training is a little different, because everything happens in like a second. So you're like doing all these movements that just take like a second, and you just do it a couple reps at a time.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, you might also, for football, you might do like you've probably seen the sled pushes where they have the big, foam sleds out in the field. I mean, that's resistance training. You're pushing against weight. It's just really specific to sport. So
I saw this football player, he was like doing neck weights.
Yeah. That's important for football players because they can fall on their head and hit their head on a lot of people. So there are a couple sports. Also, interestingly enough, race car drivers.
Oh, they do neck stuff too?
Yeah, they have to do
neck
training because the G-force.
Turns and stuff. Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of sport-specific things depending on what sport you're in. And then if you're trying to just do a balance program, you can kind of mix and match elements from these. There's a popular one called power building that has some big barbell compounds and a lower rep range to gain strength, but then all your accessory movements, like your extra stuff, your isolation movements, those are more volume, higher rep type things. So you can kind of do both at the same time a little bit.
So you'll get big and strong.
And if you're interested in like athleticism in your balance stuff, you can throw in something like a power clean or some kind of other Olympic variant. And that's one of the reasons CrossFit got really popular, is because it touts itself as functional fitness, basically, which is, it involves a little bit of resistance training, a lot of cardio, and then a little bit of that kind of power explosive training, because they do a lot of Olympic lifts like snatches and cleans and stuff like that. So yeah, you can kind of mix it all together.
If you want to.
Right. But you do have to be careful about your fatigue.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing, once you've chosen your focus, the next thing to decide is like, how do I actually organize my week? So we typically refer to which days you're doing which types of exercises as a split.
Why is it called a split?
Because sometimes it's split. Like you're doing arms on one day and you're doing legs on another day. So you're like splitting your training into different days.
I like program better.
Well, it's part of a program. But, deciding on your split depends on how many days a week you'll be going to the gym in some ways.
Is it a split if it's all full body?
It is a full body split. Don't ask me why.
Pretty weird.
Yeah.
Where's the split?
Yeah. It's split between different days. You're splitting let me rephrase. You're splitting your volume up across the days of the week.
Okay. I'll buy it.
All right. It depends on how many days a week. Full body, like you just mentioned, is one of the options. Basically, you could just do a total full body split. So every day you go to the gym in that week, you just do full body. You hit every muscle group that you're interested in working on in your body. That's really common, also really effective. Also a good way to get pretty good volume for anybody, but mostly especially for a beginner without adding on a bunch of extra time. And then the other kind of element that goes into building a split is you want to try to probably hit each muscle group at least twice a week. So if you're trying to get your biceps, you want to maybe hit them twice a week. And that's mainly just because if you're trying to hit, like we were talking about earlier, somewhere between 10 to 12 sets a week, it's usually better to do that across 2 days than 1 day, because you're trying to do 10 to 12 sets for every muscle group in 1 day every week. That would be like a 2.5 hour long workout, and you wouldn't be putting much effort into it anymore.
You'd be pretty tired.
Yeah.
Because most times you're doing like 3 sets at a time, right?
Right. Yeah. Typically 3 to 4, sometimes more. It's like you kind of decide when to add on the second exercise if you're just getting bored or you're not really hitting it anymore. So some people will just go in there and be like, okay, I need to do 6 sets of biceps today. I'm just going to do 6 sets of bicep curls. But then other people don't really like that. So they'll do 3 sets of bicep curls and then 3 sets of like some kind of preacher curl, like a little different bicep curl. So that's kind of personal preference. But typically, if you're over like 3 to 4 sets, people typically choose a second exercise. So the kind of ways you can split it based on how many days a week you're going, I'd say anywhere from really 2 to 6 days a week, you could do full body. And if you're going 1 day a week, it should definitely be full body. So really, you can just always do a full body split if you want. But something that might be a little easier for you if you're going 4 days a week or 6 days a week would be an upper lower split. So you alternate upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body each day you go to the gym in the week.
See, that wouldn't work for me because I hate lower body, so I would just keep skipping the lower body days.
Yep. No, that's a big problem with people, actually. And that is actually another benefit of full body days, because people do definitely skip leg day.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's another really popular one called push-pull legs. So, you do push exercises on 1 day, you do pull exercises another day, and then you skip leg day.
What is push and what is pull?
Push is basically like bench press, overhead press, anything where you're pressing the weight away from you.
But like what would that be for legs?
Legs is its own day. So push and pull are both.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So push and pull days are both upper body for the most part. Although some people put deadlift on pull day, and some people put deadlift on leg day. So I like it on pull day because it's the big pull exercise, and you don't want to do deadlifts on the same day as squats if you can help it.
So it's like push, pull, and a little bit of leg, and then leg day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's not confusing at all.
Yeah. And also, you don't have to be very dogmatic about these things. If you want to add an extra set of curls to your leg day, feel free. And then you really only want to do push-pull legs if you're going 6 days a week, though, because otherwise, if you're doing push-pull legs and you're only going those 3 days a week, and you miss a gym day, you totally didn't hit that muscle group for the entire week at all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you you want to try to get 2 days a week for everything. And so with push-pull legs, that's really like a 6-day program. So if you're not consistently going 6 days, don't do push-pull legs. And you can also kind of combine these. So if you're doing a 3-day program and you don't really like doing full body every day, you could do full body the first day, upper body, then lower body.
Or you can do full upper, lower.
Right, yeah.
I'm reading your notes and it's full-ol.
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 Yeah, if you have 5 days, upper lower doesn't really fit into that. So you just add in a full body day on one of those days. Or you can do 3 full body days and then upper lower. People do all kinds of variants of these. But just whatever works for you.
Whatever acronym you like best.
Yeah. The idea is pick how many days a week you can actually make it to the gym and then try to hit every muscle group at least twice a week. And then you can just kind of mix and match this however you want. And you actually don't even have to follow a split. You can just like design this thing like I really like doing bicep curls on Monday. I really like doing squats on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So you just have to, as long as you hit, the volume you need and you know how many days a week you're going to consistently make it to the gym, you can kind of build your own. But a split just helps you organize a little better if you're not pretty familiar with how to do this kind of thing.
I like what you're saying. Like Monday feels like these exercises.
Yeah, vibe programming.
Yeah, vibe programming. You should market that.
Well, actually, I think people are calling that what are they calling that? Auto-regulation now is what they call that kind of program.
What?
You just go in and you do the muscles that aren't sore anymore every day.
Oh, interesting. No, that's not what I'm saying.
But at the end of the week, you still have to be like, oh, I still need some extra volume, but I'm still sore. I guess I got to do it anyway.
I'm saying more like the number 13 and the month October feel like they would be orange. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I see.
You see?
Yeah.
So like bicep curls, those seem like they'd be on Monday.
If you can do some kind of Rain Man thing and that programming makes sense to you, as long as you get in all your volume, you can do that if you want.
Like how people can see sound?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
If you're one of those, vibe programming might be for you.
Think about the splits as just a way to split up your volume without making the session super long. So if you're currently going for 2 days and you're trying to get 10 to 12 sets of everything, or maybe you're even reaching for like 20 sets of everything, you're going to realize that especially at 20 sets, you're going to realize your 2-day sessions are like 2 hours each. So you're like, okay, I need to be in the gym a little less time, but I could actually get another day in.
Yeah.
Then you can move a lot of those exercises to the 3rd day and be a little shorter every time. So that's really all it's for. One thing to know, though, is a beginner almost never needs to go more than 4 days a week. You get a little more benefit. Maybe if you're going from like 1 day to 2 days is pretty good. 2 days to 3 days, you get some more benefit. 3 to 4 is pretty minor, but it often helps to keep the sessions a little shorter. Anything above 4, it's like you don't need to be doing this until you're like really advanced and you have to get like 30 sets a week of biceps or something to make your biceps grow.
Yeah, I also think if you're starting a program and you haven't really done it before, you also kind of want to consider like burnout.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to inch out every little extra bit for performance, but it's also making you depressed and sad and hate your life.
Yeah.
Maybe like pull it back a bit. You know what I mean?
My actual recommendation for a beginner would be 2 days a week, full body each day.
Yeah, just to get in the hang of it. And
yeah. Keep it simple. And then you can start troubleshooting once you need to. Once your sessions start running long, once you're not making progress on your biceps anymore, something like that, then you can start figuring out, okay, what do I need to do here? But just start with 2 days a week, full body each time. So now we were talking about hitting the appropriate volume for each muscle group. So now let's talk a little bit about what all the muscle groups are. So one muscle group is chest. Technically, you have like upper, mid, and lower chest, but nobody really thinks of it that way too much. So you can just think of it as chest. And then in your back, people do also just say like, I'm working on back today. But the back kind of does have 4 distinct parts. It's upper back, lower back, traps, and...
It's a trap!
Right. And lats.
Sorry.
We need some kind of a trap day shirt like that. Maybe shrugs. Have Akbar doing shrugs.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
I bet it exists.
Probably, yeah. Okay, anyway. So upper back, lower back, traps, and lats, which you can kind of work independently. Next, you have arms. Everybody knows arms. People like to get their arms big. You have biceps, triceps, and forearms.
I love a tricep.
Yeah?
Yeah, they look so cool.
Especially when they have the little horseshoe thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shoulders have kind of front, rear, and side, and you'll hear that referred to as delts. Front delt, rear delt, side delt. The shoulder muscle is called the deltoid muscle. So if you hear delts, that means shoulders.
Wow.
And then last, but definitely not least, is legs. So glutes, quads, hamstrings, and calves.
Hamstrings is such an odd word.
Yeah. You can think of it as leg biceps. It's actually, the technical scientific term is basically biceps of the leg.
It should be legseps.
That'd be fun. And your biggest muscles are the ones in your legs, so those typically do get worked kind of independently. Oh, and then also, I guess this counts as a muscle group, is your abs.
Really? You don't say.
Yeah.
The core muscle?
The core muscle. Yeah. So legs were not last but least, or legs were not last, and also not least. We'll do abs last.
You know what the strongest muscle in your whole body is?
Your heart.
Oh, is that it? I thought I heard it was a tongue.
I just thought you were going to be cheesy. Is it your tongue?
I heard your tongue's like pretty strong.
Should we program tongue push-ups?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, definitely abs. Another thing a lot of people want to focus on.
It gets hit in a lot of other exercises, though.
Yeah. A lot of people don't even directly train abs because you do get a lot of indirect work. But actually, I was reading a couple of days ago, and I've kind of got an outline put together for a blog post about like the 20% of ab muscles that don't really get hit by normal training. That you might.
What are those?
Well, I had to look them up, but it's basically like your deep stabilizer muscles, transverse abdominis, some stuff like that.
How do you fix that?
There are a couple movements like dead bugs and bird dogs and some things like that. Even if they're not loading with weight, they're actually really helpful for those. And there's actually a spinal, I can't remember exactly what he is. He's some kind of spinal doctor guy, but he has these exercises called the Big Three. His name's McGill. So if you look up the McGill Big Three, those are actually really good to add to a lifting program. You don't really add weight to them for the most part. And they feel like they're just kind of like a little beginner exercise, but they're actually really useful for like your deep core stabilizers and stuff that you don't really get work on with the big compound exercises. So yeah, I'm working on a blog post for that, but
more to come.
There's a little teaser. If you just look up McGill Big Three and do those, you'll get probably 90% of the benefit of the blog post I'm going to put out. So there you go. Okay. Yeah. So now we talked about the muscle groups. Let's talk a little bit about movement patterns, which are kind of how people are focusing their training more now on the advanced side of things rather than thinking about muscle groups. They're just thinking in terms of make sure I cover these movement patterns. So the movement patterns here to think about are a hinge, which is basically you're bending over, right? At the hips, you're hinging at the hips.
It has to be at the hips.
Where else would you hinge from?
I don't know.
Yes, it has to be from the hips.
Okay.
For this movement pattern. So this is something like
jaw.
Something like a Romanian deadlift or a good morning where you're just bending over.
Okay.
Next movement pattern is the squat. So this can be a barbell back squat, a front squat, a split squat, even lunges count as a squat pattern, things like that. You want to try to make sure you got at least one of those in your program. Next up is a vertical pull. So vertical pull would be like a lat pull down or a chin up is actually the better option if you can do chin up. And then a horizontal pull. So this is a row, basically.
Okay.
And then next up is a vertical press. So an overhead press, shoulder press is what you typically think of this as.
Okay.
And then a horizontal press, so like a bench press.
And you need to have all of these?
So you can actually hit all the muscle groups without including all of these movement patterns. But if you want a really well-rounded program and you're healthy and you can do all the movements, it's best to try to include all the muscle groups and all the movement patterns. So when it comes to actually picking the exercises for the program, you should know that you can kind of swap exercises pretty freely, really. So if you want to hit quads and you're trying to do the squat movement pattern, then the first thing you'll look up is probably barbell squat. And then you'll look at that and say, I don't want to do barbell squat.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can basically switch that out with anything else in that movement pattern. You can switch it out with like a Bulgarian split squat. You could switch it out with walking lunges. You could switch it out with like a box squat or maybe a Smith machine squat, something like that. Or,
what if you can't do squats?
Yeah, then you kind of have to change it a little bit and you would switch it out with something like a leg press is probably the best, or a hack squat at the gym. Now, if you're just trying to hit quads, you could switch it out with something like a leg extension, but that technically wouldn't fit the movement pattern, but it does still hit the muscle group. So that's the next best option. So yeah, just feel free to like, whenever you're looking at an exercise, you don't have to do that specific thing and you don't have to use the specific implement that it has. So even for something like a bench press, you can use the barbell, you can use dumbbells, you can use a machine. It's all pretty much the same.
Some people do resistance bands even.
You can do resistance, but it's just, if you're benching 150 pounds.
Sure. I'm talking about like beginners.
Yeah.
That maybe don't have a gym or equipment.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And you just might have to do higher reps.
Yeah, or like double up on resistance bands.
The resistance bands are great too. As long as you can get close to failure in less than about 30 reps, you can still use resistance bands, no problem. Also, some other reasons you might want to swap exercises, like if your gym's busy, like maybe you do like squats, but that squat rack's not going to be free for the next 2 hours, then you can just know in your head, oh, okay, I can switch to any other squat type pattern for today, or I can do leg press, or if I really need to, I can do leg extensions. And I'm kind of getting the same work in, but I don't have to wait on this machine. So now I'm going to go through, if I could pick one exercise for each muscle group, what would I pick? And I want to see what you think about these.
Okay.
So for chest, I would say incline bench press.
I like that.
I prefer dumbbells, but at a certain weight, you're probably going to have to switch to barbell.
Yeah.
Just because it's hard to get up. They also have these little hanger things. You can hang dumbbells on a barbell. So I actually like the movement more with dumbbells, but the weight can get pretty hard to use.
What'd you just say?
Yeah. So I think they're called the Mad Hatter hanger. I don't know. But anyway, you clip this hanger on your dumbbells and then you hang that on your barbell on a rack. So you can still do your bench press with dumbbells, but you don't have to like hoist them up into position. They're just hanging up there and you just grab them off this little rack thing.
Interesting.
We have some of those downstairs. They don't really work super well with adjustable dumbbells is the caveat. Unless you have an adjustable dumbbell that doesn't have a cage around your hands.
Yeah.
So
I guess for me, I like these, but I kind of like doing them on the tonal we have.
Yeah.
Which is a cable machine.
Yeah.
Just because, like, if you go close to failure because all of our weights are adjustable,
yeah,
I always get really nervous about dropping them.
Yeah, for sure. And it's really good on the tonal. I mean, that goes up to probably all the weight you'll ever need, honestly. Mm-hmm. Or if you have a cable machine you can do it on, that's perfectly fine. And the reason I like these for chest so much is that they are a little more focused on the upper chest, which is actually the part that people have the most trouble growing. And you can use lighter weights. You still get all the work. And it still does a really good job on like the mid chest. So it's kind of an all-in-one chest exercise, but you can do it with less weight. And it's much safer because it's not like a barbell bench press position. So
for me, chest has always been weird as a woman because I'm like, I don't see any of that. Yeah. Not sure what's going on under there.
Yeah. It's interesting, but yeah. Next up for shoulders, I would say the dumbbell lateral raise.
Oh, man, if you can do more than about 10 pounds on this, you're superhuman.
And, the reason that I like the lateral raise for shoulders is because we were talking about earlier, the front delts get a lot of work from pushing exercises. The rear delts get a lot of work from pulling exercises. So you don't often really need to work those directly unless you're having a real problem or you just want to do like overhead press for fun or something. So if you're doing, side lateral raises, then you're hitting your side delt, which is the part that really pops anyway when it grows. So I think that's like the most important type of exercise to do. And you can do these on a machine as well. You can do them with cables. Dumbbells just like really easy. You just pick up a dumbbell and go.
You're likely never going to get too heavy on a dumbbell.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I think even like extremely advanced people are doing dumbbell lateral raises for high reps with like 25 pounds, maybe 30 pounds.
Yeah.
So.
You definitely don't want to like cheat it up with momentum. So it's just... you can't lift too much.
Yeah. And you can do low reps. I mean, you could do it for like trying to get, a little stronger, or just if you like just doing low reps, I guess. But most people find that these feel better if you do them in high reps.
Yeah, I think I do mine around 15, 12 to 15.
Same. Yeah. Next up for biceps, I like the dumbbell incline curl where you're sitting on an incline bench. The reason for that is your arm gets to go further behind you, so you get a lot more stretch in the bicep.
I like these. Okay, I used to do a lot of P90X.
Yeah.
And I don't know if these are real exercises, but basically you'd go up with your palms like facing upward and then you twist at the top and then go down with like a hammer curl. And I've always really liked those. Yeah,
those are good. Those are similar to how Arnold used to do his curls. They're not exactly the same, but it's like the reverse of that, and the reason is like your bicep has two functions. One's to like bend the arm at the elbow and the other is to rotate your arm. So you're kind of hitting both of those when you do a twisting motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one's my favorite.
Yeah. And if you could also do that on an incline.
I don't think I've tried incline yet.
Yeah, you want to start real late. It definitely stretches the bicep tendon at the top of the shoulder. So if you want to make sure you're not going to have issues with that, but it gives you a better stretch. You can also do something they're calling like a Bayesian curl now, which is the same concept. You basically stand on a cable machine, but the cable's behind your body, and it's pulling your arm out behind you, and then you curl from there.
Interesting.
Just kind of get anything where your arm's going behind your body is a little bit better stretch for a bicep curl.
Yeah. I think it'd also keep you from like doing cheat reps where you're just swinging your arm wildly.
Right. And yeah, so if you're trying to do like a barbell bicep curl, the barbell stops, obviously.
Yeah.
It hits your body, so your arms can't really go behind you. So dumbbell curls have always been a good thing. Preacher curls, kind of the same concept. You get like a big stretch. So it's just a little easier if you just have to sit on an incline bench. You don't have to have a preacher bench, things like that.
Yeah.
For triceps, like the cable overhead extension, it hits, all 3 heads of the tricep really well. Like to do high reps on that. Pretty easy to set up. You can also do this with a dumbbell or a barbell if you really want to.
I like anything triceps.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite one.
Yeah.
You can give me 100 triceps and I'll just do them all if you tell me to.
They can recover fairly quickly. Your tricep's actually bigger than your bicep. A lot of people, when they work on arms, they really focus on the biceps. But if you're trying to increase your arm size, you would probably want to focus on tricep a little more.
Plus, triceps look sexier. Don't they?
Triceps look sexier?
Yeah.
Is that
That's the hill I'm dying
the
on.
official opinion?
That's my opinion.
You heard it here first, folks.
Ooh, skull crushers.
Yeah, skull crushers.
I like skull crushers for triceps.
Yeah. Yeah. They're good.
And they're like nice and slow. I think also I like the burn of the tricep.
Oh,
the burn of the tricep feels better than the burn of any other muscle.
I agree with that.
I don't know why.
Yeah. And they're still kind of crampy for a couple of days later.
Yeah,
so you always know that you worked triceps in the last week.
Yeah, there's something alluring about triceps.
All right, next up for your back. If you can do them, I'd say definitely the best back exercise is pull-ups.
I can't do those.
Yeah, so obviously all the rows are really awesome too. Some kind of like chest-supported row where you get a big stretch at the bottom is good, or even like a seated row where you kind of lean forward and get a stretch into it. Those are all really good. But if you can do pull-ups, I would definitely focus heavily on pull-ups.
I like a seated row.
Yeah, seated rows are nice. And you're probably doing multiple exercises for each of these things, but this list is just like, if I could just pick one.
Yeah, his personal favorites.
Yeah. For quads, barbell squats, obviously. That's like, I would feel very sad if I ever had any program that didn't involve squats. So.
Yeah, I have scoliosis, so squats are like pretty rough for me personally.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of other good alternatives. And again, any kind of squat is a good alternative. And you could also do leg extensions. Those are pretty good. If you're doing leg extensions, try to lean back a little bit. Get a little more of the hip involved in that. Next up, hamstrings. A really good one for hamstrings as a compound exercise is Romanian deadlifts. So if I can only pick one, I'm trying to lean towards compound exercises. So I'd have to go with those.
I like Ardles.
Yeah, Ardles. That's what we're calling them. RDL. Ardles.
That's what I've been calling them for a while.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it should catch on.
It's fun to say.
Yeah. These are similar to a deadlift, except the bar never hits the ground and your legs are pretty stiff. So like a stiff-legged deadlift and a Romanian deadlift are pretty much the same thing. You'll see some videos that like, this was the difference, but like realistically, they're basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then glutes, Bulgarian split squats, probably the best compound exercise for glutes.
You have to be pretty balanced, though.
Yeah, it takes a lot of practice. And
I feel like they're maybe not super beginner-friendly, even. Like,
depends,
you know
on
what
the
I mean?
beginner, but yeah.
I don't really like them.
If you're not very comfortable with like moving your body around, they can definitely be awkward, and you won't be able to get the right work out of them.
Yeah.
So you might switch to something like a hip thrust, great for glutes.
What about lunges?
Lunges are really good for glutes too. But some people might have the same problem with lunges they have with Bulgarian split squats.
I feel like Bulgarian split squats are way harder than lunges.
Yeah, definitely. But you kind of have to do lunges like in a special way to target the glutes because they're more quad focused typically. But if you do like a reverse lunge, or you can like angle your leg just right to try to get glute activation on a lunge. So Bulgarian split squat just kind of ensures that you're targeting glutes.
So what would you do if you couldn't do any of these split squatting type things?
I would do some kind of hip thrust or just glute bridges if you can get like one of those little Bella booty bands and hook up some dumbbells to it, something like that. You could also do the abductor machine at the gym. It's good for your mid glutes at least. The isolation exercise for glutes is typically like a hip thrust.
Which is really awkward to do in front of people.
Oh, yeah. Especially if you're trying to do a barbell. It's like super heavy to load up. So I'd really only even mess with hip thrust if you could use a machine, probably. Yeah. And a lot of gyms don't have a hip thrust machine. So I'm kind of stuck there. It's a little easier on a Smith machine, I guess. If you have a Smith machine, you can probably load it up a little easier than a normal barbell. Not a big deal. But
hopefully anyone with hip thrust machines, keep them away from windows.
Why is that?
I feel like it's a very personal movement.
Oh, I see. No, that's a really good point. Yeah, a lot of gyms have like big outdoor windows.
Yeah, I hate that.
It's weird. You can get a lot of light in, but it's like awkward, right? Make it a one-way window at least.
Yeah, I also think it's awkward when everyone's walking around with cameras and shit.
I know. Yeah, that's why you work at home.
Yeah.
All right, calves. is next. Standing calf raise is the one I would pick for this. They found it's actually a lot better for calf growth if your knee is not bent when you do calf resistance training. So standing is the way to go. Seated is also good, but standing is better.
I like calves. Calves are like the triceps of the legs. Like, I like the pain of a calf burn, you know?
I do too, yeah. Yeah, you can typically would do these with really high reps. You can even do calf raises just holding a dumbbell on stairs in your house, and it's like a perfect workout.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I also like the way calf muscles look.
Yeah.
There was this girl on my softball team in high school who had the most glorious calf muscles, and we'd always be like, how did you get calf muscles like that? And she'd be like, I don't know. And I think she was just one of God's chosen people.
Yeah. Maybe.
They were glorious.
Next is forearms. So if you want to try to improve your grip or you just want like your forearms to look bigger.
Like Popeye.
Yeah, like Popeye. Wrist curls are really good for that.
Ooh, what about that? Like, isn't there one where you get like a wooden dowel and put a rope through it with a weight on the bottom and then you like spin that up and down?
Yeah, the wrist roller. That is actually super good for it. It's just most people don't have one of those. And they're a little harder to load, I guess, because like if we use something like wrist curls, we can do barbell or dumbbell. We can add fractional weight because forearms aren't very strong. If you're doing barbell, it's usually a little easier to do behind the back wrist curls. But if you're using dumbbell, you can just do it over a bench or over your knee in front of you, things like that. You can also do wrist extensions. So you kind of maybe would do both to get both sides of the wrist. But yeah, no, the wrist roller you mentioned, also a lot of people are doing this thing now where it's basically you get a big bucket of rice and you just kind of like move your hands inside the rice, and it's actually a really good forearm workout.
I've been seeing this guy on TikTok that jabs his hands in a big bucket of rice.
I think that's a different thing.
Or beans or something, and he's making his hands into spears, and then he does this thing where he smacks his fingers together and it sounds like wood.
Oh yeah, didn't he say that like, don't do this, it's a really bad idea, my fingers hurt all the time or something like that?
Well, he didn't say that, but I Googled it because I was like, I don't know if this is a good thing. And Google was like basically saying that it could be not great.
Well, he did it all for the gram.
It does sound like wood. It's very weird. I'm not sure what he's training for. He wants spear hands.
I don't think it's forearms, but I bet he probably has strong forearms.
I bet he does, yeah.
And then last up is abs. One I really like for abs is V-ups, just because you don't really need equipment. You can, if you need to weight them, you can grab a medicine ball or you can hold a plate over your chest or something. But basically, it's like you lay on the ground and you try to make like your head and your feet meet. They both move.
That's kind of like Pilates-ish almost.
Yeah, but you can do it weighted. If you have a machine or something, cable crunches are also pretty good, but you're usually doing, after a while, you're doing like the whole stack and it's hard to make it harder.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an awkward movement sometimes.
It's awkward to do at the gym.
Yeah. Yeah. Abs in general, a little tricky, but cable crunches. If you have a nice like crunch machine at your gym, those can be super good, but a lot of gyms have really bad ones and it just is awkward. So, because you can get like a huge stretch at the top, which is good, and then you come back down and you crunch. If you have a great machine, that's really awesome.
It's hard to make the machines fit everybody for a crunch.
Exactly. Yep. But yeah, I like V-ups a lot. So now we want to go through an example program really quick that you might build to do a full body 3 days a week. And in this case, we're doing the same exercises every day. You can change it up and do different exercises each day, and there might be some minor benefits to that, but it's not necessary. And if the exercises you're doing don't cause you any like joint irritation or anything like that, you can kind of just keep the same ones, especially if you're just talking about doing it for a couple of months or a year or whatever. You can keep the same exercises, keep progressing. I would only really maybe switch it out when you start to have problems progressing, or you start to have problems with, pain or something weird like that. But the program we have here is...
So this one's mine, and some caveats are that I have pretty bad scoliosis, so I don't really do squats or like deadlifts.
Yeah.
Because it's very awkward.
Yeah.
And I like doing repetitive things. So like having the same workout for 3 days in a row is nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like, you're saying there's a couple exercises you don't want to do, you don't like to do, which is fine because we have a lot of other ways to hit each muscle group. So you start off with a bench press. You use the dumbbell for bench press. You start out with like a compound movement, hit your chest, triceps, shoulders again. So we start there. Next up, Romanian deadlift. So we kind of got that hinge movement. We're doing hamstrings, glutes. Romanian deadlifts are really good for glutes as well. I'm doing those also with the dumbbell, just for a really easy setup. The weights with our dumbbells are perfectly within your like acceptable range for what you need to be working. So easy. A lying leg curl on a machine. So this is like a hamstring curl.
Yeah.
Add a little extra hamstring volume. Leg extensions.
On the same machine.
On the same machine.
What's that machine again? It's pretty useful for a home gym, I've found.
Yeah, that one's called a Freak Athlete. It's like an 8-in-1, 10-in-1. I don't know. You can do glute ham raises. You can do Nordic curls. You can do leg extensions, hamstring curls. You can do a lot of stuff with it. So I was like, as far as machines go for a home gym, it also stands up straight, doesn't take up room when you don't want it to. It's actually been super useful.
Probably my favorite thing in the gym at this point because it gets me out of squats.
It's you load it with the same weight plates you put on a barbell, but they also make a little attachment where you can hook it up if you have some kind of cable machine situation. Like we have the tonal, so we could theoretically hook ours up to the tonal. Haven't had to really do that yet, but I do have the attachment.
Yeah.
But if you have like a cable station maybe inside your squat rack and you have pin selected plates or something like that, you can hook that up to it instead of using your actual weight plates. So it's actually super versatile and really stable, and I like it a lot.
I like it a lot too.
So you have leg extensions on there for some quad because, like you said, you don't really want to do the squats. So this is how we're hitting quads for you.
And he put all the leg stuff in the beginning, so it sucks.
Yeah.
But then when it's over, it doesn't suck anymore.
Right. Next up, you have lat pull downs. So you do these with our tonal. So you're doing it on a cable station and, kind of doing it almost midway between like a vertical pull and a row, lean back a little more just so we don't have to add an extra exercise because we also want to keep the time down, keep it to a workout that you want to do. Next is bicep curls with the dumbbell, just a normal bicep curl. I think you do like the twisting ones you were talking about.
Yeah. And all of mine are between like 8 and 12 reps.
Yeah. All these are, I think, 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps using double progression. Next up, tricep extensions, also with the dumbbell. I think you're actually doing kickbacks.
I am, yeah.
Yeah. And then lateral raise with the dumbbell to hit the shoulders. So
I just like a lot of stuff with dumbbells because then I don't have to go jerk around with a bunch of machines.
Yeah, I mean, it saves a ton of time. If you can do stuff with dumbbell and it's not like the weight is really awkward and you have dumbbells that are like the weight you need to use, dumbbells save so much time that they're really awesome to use for workouts.
Yeah. And then, if you don't have like an extensive home gym, it kind of allows you to just buy like maybe some adjustable dumbbells.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot with those.
Yeah.
And mine's been between like 50 and 60 minutes, which feels like just right. With like rest periods and stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like there's some stuff we talked about earlier you don't see here, like, calves necessarily, no like direct ab work, no like rear delt work, something like that. But a lot of that stuff does get work from the other things we're doing. So. Yeah. Well, what do you think about the program? Do you like it?
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm someone that can just do the same thing over and over again, and I don't really get bored of it. It's more of like comforting to know that I know exactly what's coming up. Yeah. So, because we've gone through several iterations of mine, and it's like, I think you like to add in like different workouts because you kind of like get bored with the same one. So, you gave me variety, and I said, I don't want variety.
Yeah.
I want to eat this specific tofu at every meal.
Right. Well, that's one of the benefits of having like a trainer type person around is like really personalizing it towards this is what I hate, this is what I like.
Yeah, because
this is what I'll actually do.
Because I have like a lot of restrictions around the scoliosis thing, just because I feel like my body bends a little off.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, and there's a little bit of like an imbalance thing. So pulling out some of those because I felt like I could never get the form quite right, which made me really not want to do them because A, I felt stupid, and B, I also felt like I was going to like fuck my back up.
Yeah, and this isn't really like, it's not like I'm making a scoliosis program. It's just like, I don't like doing these, so okay, we'll find something else.
Yeah, like, and I think that there are so many exercises that like if you have something that makes you feel like nervous or like you feel like I can't get this form right and like maybe my body is like proportions are a little different than the people that I see online doing this exercise, like there are other exercises you could sub in.
Yeah, and if you're doing a movement and you're focusing on anything else other than like just giving all your effort, if you're worried about like if you have a confidence thing or you're worried about like I'm imbalanced or like am I going to hurt my back, like those things even subconsciously are going to make your body not try as hard. Like even if you're doing something like deadlifts, when you start to lose your grip, like your body is like turning off, some of the effort that you can put into it. It's like, okay, this is not a stable situation. I'm not going to let him like pull as hard as he needs to pull or whatever. So there's definitely some components to that where you want to be able to feel like stable and confident and really focus on like hitting the muscle that you're trying to work on in the exercise. So if we have movements where you have troubles doing those, we just swap them out for something that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. And I also think like if you have an exercise that is not even like, oh, I don't feel like my body is proportioned properly or like stable enough to do this exercise, but like you just fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Just pull it out and put something else in, because like step-ups, I freaking hate step-ups. Like,
yeah.
I just don't like them. I hate them so much that like if you put it in my workout plan, I might just not do my workout for the day, because like I just loathe it.
Yeah.
It makes me not want to do it. So
yeah, and that's a real thing that people have, and you know, step ups aren't like a magical work. Like you can definitely swap those out for 15 other things. So we just say, hey, what are some of the things you don't hate? We'll do those things. No big deal.
Or like, what are the things you really like?
Yeah.
Because I think everyone has like favorite things. Like I just really like anything with triceps or biceps.
Yeah.
And so it's like, obviously you're going to like put a bunch of those in there for me.
Yeah.
And then like, luckily I just live with a personal trainer. So he's just like magics my program and hits all the rest of the shit with the stuff I don't dislike.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And this is just like a point in time too. Like if you go a couple months, you're like, okay, well, here's some stuff we were maybe neglecting with this, and then we'll add in some of those.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point you add in like calf direct work or something like that. But it's always a trade-off of like, is doing calf work really worth the additional time I would need to spend in the gym and things like that?
You'll be happy to know I do calf raises every time I brush my teeth.
There you go. Yeah.
They're not weighted, but they're happening.
Can you do 50?
Yeah. I probably do 100.
Oh, okay. Well, you might need to get a heavier toothbrush. I don't
know. Shark Tank, here we come.
Why are you brushing your teeth in a weighted vest?
Ooh, another use for the squatty potty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we have about like building or picking a lifting program, and hopefully you get some concepts out of there that you can help to build your own program. If you have any questions, reach out and ask, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. Or
tell us your favorite exercises or the ones you freaking hate.
Yeah, love to hear that too. I'm going to mentally guess it's Bulgarian split squats. All right. So now let's get into our myth of the week this week. The myth of the week this week is that there's such a thing as humane meat.
Yeah. I feel like you hear this a lot when you're starting to have conversations about like, oh, why are you vegan? And you're like, well, because I don't want to like harm animals. And then they're like, well, I buy humane meat, so that's not a problem. Or like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that a few times.
Yeah, it's an interesting argument. And I guess what they mean is like not a completely tortured animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so first of all, cows specifically will naturally live to like 20 plus years old.
Yeah.
But when you slaughter a cow for beef, you're doing that when they're about 2 years old.
Which is very sad.
Yeah.
That's like 10% of a life expectancy.
Yeah.
So for a human, that would be like, what, 8 years old? You just start killing people at 8 years old?
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah. And then
that doesn't sound humane.
No. And then most of the meat you buy at the grocery store is also not coming from like, you know, your neighbor's uncle's little small farm. It's coming from a factory farm.
Yeah, almost all of the meat you find in a grocery store is a factory farm, which are very cramped, not good living conditions. So like not only is the slaughter bad, but like they're having a horrible life.
Yeah.
Like they are not happily running in the fields, gleefully chomping on grass. That's not the situation at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of like the farms are like stealing the baby cows from their mom. And this is like true for not just cows, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But like think about like a human mom, like if you just like took her kid from her, like, because you know, animals have emotions too. Like they've been pregnant and they just gave birth, and like their instinct is to nurture and be maternal towards her baby, and then it's gone.
Yeah.
And I saw this really sad thing that was like when you pull a calf from its mother, they're both like kind of crying for each other for a very long period of time.
Yeah.
So it's all very, very sad, and it's not humane at all.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to the humane meat stuff, I guess my first thought has always been like, if you wouldn't feel good with handling humans this way, it's probably not humane, right? Like I know humane doesn't mean that. It's just a coincidence. But that's still how I think about it. Like if you're saying like the cow is well treated, they had a good whatever the humane is supposed to mean to you, it's like, okay, well, would you be okay doing that with humans? Obviously not. That's insane.
Yeah, or like a pet.
Yeah,
right?
Even a pet. Yeah.
Like a pet dog or cat. Like, would you be cool with like if that's how we treated your favorite animal? Like if you pick your favorite animal, like say my favorite animal's a dog.
Yeah.
But like if we treated dogs the way we treat cows, like I would be outraged.
Yeah.
And I think most people would be outraged.
Yeah.
It's like they're all animals, like they all have the same kind of feelings and like emotions, and they also can feel pain, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think like a lot of this argument usually revolves around like they killed them quick or something. It's like you're kind of missing the point there.
Yeah, exactly. Like perhaps we shouldn't kill them at all. And then I think the other caveat here is like, if you don't need meat to live healthily, why are we doing any of this at all?
Yeah, that's been my biggest thing that's hard to unlearn since I've gone vegan. It's one of the main things I think about is like, well, I mean, we obviously don't need meat, so why are we doing any of that?
Yeah, like how do you justify all this behavior if you don't need it and you can live a great life without it and maybe even a healthier life?
And then as you learn more, it's like it would actually be easier to feed the planet if we didn't involve livestock.
Yeah.
Like, so like I don't.
And better for the environment and like a whole other plethora of positive things.
Having a hard time seeing any benefits.
Yeah.
You know.
Sometimes I'll also hear people be like, well, I'm a hunter, so like the only meat I eat is from like animals I personally like kill.
Yeah.
And still, I feel like that still is kind of like what you're saying, which is like these animals could live in the wild for a long time naturally, and you're ending their life short. And like, also, did you not watch Bambi? Because like, I grew up watching Bambi, and like, I just remember crying so hard that like, I'm pretty sure at some point, like, my mom had to like start skipping the beginning because it was too much for me.
Yeah.
You know, and like, even today, I would not be able to watch that movie without sobbing. Like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like you should go watch some more Disney movies.
Yeah.
Get some empathy.
Yeah, so I think like the concept of like a humane meat is just pretty misled.
Yeah, the humane meat is plant-based.
Right. Yep.
Debunked.
Cool. So let's talk about some of the updates from the protein deficient vegan side of the house this week.
Okay. Well, as you may know, and if you don't know, and you're dating someone, you should probably know that Valentine's Day is next Saturday, February 14th, if you celebrate that sort of thing. But so I've been working on some like higher protein, like sweet treats that'd be great for Valentine's Day. And actually, I'm putting out a blog post on like an easy Valentine's Day gift that you could give your partner, especially if they are a gym goer or someone who's focused on protein, or just like, I think this is a great gift, but hey, I'm going to ruin the surprise for you. You're getting a bag of edamame puffs.
I love it.
And love coupons that are redeemable for various high-protein desserts that include edamame puffs. And I calculated it out, and you can make all of them with one bag.
That's really cool. I'm very excited.
So it's like Rice Krispie treats, various chocolatey confections. They're all really, really easy to make. So like if you're someone who doesn't dick around much in the kitchen and you're a little nervous about like, oh, now I have to be a chocolatier. No, they're like easy. If I can do it, you can do it.
So based on me tasting the recipes, I think what's going to happen is if I get the coupons at noon on February 14th, I'm going to hand them all back to you at noon and 1 minute on February 14th. And I'm going to have a really good February 15th.
You're going to have a long day because that's a lot. There's a lot. I think there's like 8 coupons.
No, but we had, you were testing some of the recipes.
Yeah.
And this morning we had like the chocolate covered hearts and the strawberry Rice Krispie treats for breakfast. And I had like 40 grams of protein with the same macros as a protein bar eating Valentine's Day candy. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know edamame puffs are the best. But if you are soy free, they also make like a pea protein puff. Or if you just hate that kind, if you're not like a sweet person, you could also give them like a bag of Vital Beet gluten or something.
Yeah.
Like something like that, or like a bag of TVP.
Do you have a bunch of the bread, like say 10 and stuff? Something like that.
Something, and like make your own coupons that are like based on that specific ingredient. I don't know. I just thought it was fun. Like it's thoughtful because you're thinking about like, oh, I don't want to completely destroy
somebody who has a protein goal.
Yeah, I don't want to destroy their calories and protein for weeks and months.
Yeah.
But also it's like it's kind of it's handmade, you know, like it's homemade.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's kind of thoughtful.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put a blog post together, and if you want to steal my coupon book, you can like download it and print it or whatever.
Yeah. Sounds pretty cool.
And then I used like this really pretty pink paper, so they're kind of fun looking.
Yeah. I think it's a really cool idea.
Thanks. He does have to say that because I know where he sleeps, but I appreciate it nonetheless.
Yeah.
Okay, any updates from you?
Yeah, so the people who are going through the Veganuary giveaway training are coming up on the end of their third week. We'll be starting so I'm separating the 12 weeks up into 3 kind of 4-week blocks.
Yeah.
So in the second 4-week blocks, we start to introduce some new concepts like gauging effort and maybe tailoring the program a little more towards the goals and adjusting things and stuff like that. So that'll be pretty exciting. Try to, teach a little bit as we go through the program. And then also we took a vote inside the giveaway group, and we're going to start doing kind of an adherence leaderboard internally. So that's kind of cool. So if you're supposed to do this many workouts a week and hit your calories and protein and stuff every day,
maybe you have a step goal.
So you say, okay, these are all the check boxes I was supposed to check in this week, and maybe I missed 2 of the check boxes. So we'll figure out what percentage of those things you were supposed to do did you actually do, and just use that percentage of tasks completed basically as a leaderboard.
I actually think this is pretty cool, especially because I feel like I have always been a streak person of where if it comes to steps or adherence to my macros and stuff. And so if I get on a good streak, I'm good for a long time. But as soon as that streak breaks, it's depressing. You know what I mean? You're I was on a 139 days step streak, and then I got sick with COVID or something, and now my step streak's gone, and now I have to start it again, and it feels like you're climbing back up a mountain. So I don't know. I kind of like this because it's a weekly grade kind of thing. And being a nerd who really like high school and school in general, I don't know, I really like the idea of a grade. And it I don't know, makes you kind of want to do better next week. But also if you miss something, you're okay, not 100%, but still at 95%, which is a pretty good grade.
I find it also, I think it's going to be helpful for seeing your progress. So if you're you're getting to a point where okay, not really making the progress I thought I was, and then we look back at the weekly scores and be okay, we were at 40%, 60%. So if we can bump up this adherence, basically doing all the things you're supposed to do, that's called adherence. If we can bump up your adherence a little bit, then we're probably going to see better progress. So you can directly see okay, well these low adherence scores were probably impacting the progress I was trying to make.
Yeah, I feel it helps you troubleshoot where there's a lack of progress as well.
Yeah.
And then also, we're going to have a leaderboard in the group. And so, you want to win. Most people are kind of competitive, even if they don't think they are.
Yeah, even low-stakes competition can be fun.
I'm not going to be on the leaderboard because I wasn't part of the Veganuary giveaway, but I am going to be looking at your scores and trying to beat you secretly. So...
So if you want to, hang out with us, chat with some of the people that are doing the giveaway training and also some other people that are just, coalescing around the Discord, you should join.
We have the best people.
Yeah, they're really
I
cool.
swear. They're all really interesting and fun and nice and funny.
Yeah. A lot of good stuff. So if you look in our show notes, you can see the Deficient Vegans Discord link. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's just basically a chat platform. So there's a bunch of channels you can chat in about different things.
And you can make new vegan friends.
That's right. So check that out for sure. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify, if you could leave us a review, that's really helpful for helping us show up in search. And then if you're on Spotify or YouTube, you can also leave a comment for us.
We love comments.
We do. And then also in the show notes are our websites, social media. If you want to get in touch or kind of read about some of the stuff we're doing on the blogs, you can check those out. Feel free to send a message on Instagram or the contact forms on the websites.
Hit us up anywhere. Yeah, we'll find it eventually.
Jump in the Discord. We're right there. Yes. So.
Yeah, you can ask us anything in the Discord.
There you go. All right. Well, I think that's it for this week. You want to say bye?
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.